Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Jwoo Chaotic Crafting's channel on YouTube. We're also on Facebook and other platforms as well. I'm sorry I sound a little frazzled. I had did a whole 15-20 minute video earlier and apparently had no audio on it. So we are now re-recording. So hope you guys enjoy. It may be a little bit more informative than the first one. So the second time's the charm. So let's get at it. Today, I will be showing you guys how to create cut lines for your Roland BN 20 or whatever cutting machine that you may have that is not like DTF. With your rolling machines, you must create your cut lines. You can do either Affinity to do those cut lines. Some choose to do Illustrator, and then some have other third-party software that they use as well. But me, using what I have currently, so I'm going to show you what I use using Adobe products, Photoshop, and Illustrator, which will work hand in hand. So the first program that we're going to be working with is going to be Photoshop. And what you're going to do is just bring your image in however you choose to do so. You can choose to drag and drop. You can choose to just copy paste, however you have your image saved. So I already have my image in here. So I'm just pulling it up and putting it in the center. And then I'm just going to click done to save those transformations. Next, you want to create two layers. The first layer, you're going to call, excuse me, the first layer, you can double click to rename that Cutlines. And then that other layer you created, we're going to call that Bleed, B-L-E-E-D. And this is just going to serve as layers so that we can put other items on there. So then we're going to basically rearrange these layers to have them where we like them to be. So we want our cut lines to be on top. Then we're going to have our image sandwiched in the middle. Then we're going to have our bleed lines at the bottom. So it should read cut lines, your image, whatever its name, and then bleed. Next, you're going to basically select your image layer, go to the select menu, then go to load selection. Once you do that, it's going to put up the load selection menu, which basically shows you your document name at the top here. And then next it shows channel, which is basically the name of the image, which you show it says group 1 copy. And that's what it says. And it is on a transparent background. So that's all that means. I don't make any changes there unless you have other layers that you want to select instead. But I already have my actual layer selected. So I'm going to click OK. And then that's just going to create the marching ants around my image. So I'm just zooming in now so that you can see the little marching ants and things that are going around my image all the way around. As you can see as well, there's going to be possibly some white marks here. So I'll show you here in Illustrator how to get those done, but we'll go over that more in detail shortly. So once we have done the load selection on your image layer, click your cut lines layer, go to edit, and then go to fill. That will bring up your fill menu. What you're going to do next is go to the context menu. If you don't already have black selected, you just want to pull down that drop down arrow and select black. You're going to leave your mode as normal and your opacity as 100 and select OK. And that's basically going to create a fill layer on top of your image that will help you to create cut lines once we transfer over to Illustrator. So now what we're going to do is start on our bleed. We want to double check and make sure that those marching ants are still there in the same spot. We're going to go to our bleed layer, click on it, go back to select menu, go to modify, hit expand. With the expand, you can play with that however you choose to do so. It is recommended to be anywhere between 5 to 20, however you like that, how much bleed you may need possibly for yourself. I found myself 15 to be extremely too much bleed for me because I felt like I was wasting ink. So I just leveled it down to 8 to have a small bleed on the outside as my lines are pretty much cut on for the most part. So once I select OK here, it's basically going to create an expanded layer of those marching ants that we have. So you'll see that as well. Let me zoom out. Let me cancel that. I'm just going to zoom in so you can actually see what I'm talking about. All right. So currently, I canceled that previous thing. We're going to go back and do that again. This is my current marching ants. I'm going to select, go to modify, and we're going to expand, do our 8. And you're going to see that pop out. It was originally on the image. Now it has popped out at least 8 pixels away from the image all the way around. And that's just what we're going to create to use our bleed. So after you see that has expanded, go back to edit, go to fill. You're going to fill that layer with black as well. And we are all done on Photoshop. So now you should have 3 different layers, and we're just going to take them all off. And you can deselect now because we're done with the marching ants. There's your bleed. Once you click your image, it's going to come on top of that, and you see the outline of the bleed. So you see that? If my blade is a little bit off when it gets to cutting, it's going to cut black instead of showing white. It's going to also print that. So that's a good thing if you don't want that white vinyl to show on your t-shirts. And then you'll see your cut line on top, but as of right now, it doesn't give a good outlook of what it's going to look like because we'll do all that in Illustrator. But we're not done in Photoshop. We're just going to save this as a Photoshop file. I'm just going to use one of my old ones. We're going to call this Cutlines. Photoshop file, save, max compatibility. Yes. Compatibility, I'm sorry. Now we're done with Photoshop. We're just going to switch over to Illustrator. It's going to go to open. And you're going to open that Photoshop file in Illustrator. You're going to get this photo import options document to come up. You want to make sure that you have the convert layers to options radio button selected, and then you also want to do hidden layers. That way, if you have this convert layers to objects, you're able to still edit them. If you do this, you won't be able to edit anything. It will kind of serve as a PNG altogether, so everything will kind of flatten out and rasterize together. So we don't want that, so we'll leave it to convert layers to objects and leave import hidden layers on there just in case you have any additional layers that you have hidden in Photoshop. They will also come in your Illustrator. So now we're just going to open that, and it just looks like a plain black page, which if you take off the cut lines, you'll see what we need. Okay. Me, I hate unnecessary groups. So I go through and I basically just put everything all in one group and get rid of those additional ones. And as you see, I still have my bleed, I still have my image, and I still have my cut lines. So I'm just going to take away my bleed. I'm going to lock my image, and then I'm going to start working on this cut line. The first thing you want to do is go to image trace, hit that drop down and go to silhouettes. Once that's done, it's not going to change anything, but you're going to see that trace button turn to expand, hit expand, and that's basically going to take all those compounds out for you, those paths, and make it all as one. And there we go with that. So that's done. Once you see it has been converted to a path, and you have expanded it to a path, you're just going to hit this button over here to change your color selection from fill to stroke. So I'm basically going to take this and reverse the order. So now that it's currently reading that I have a black fill and no stroke, but now I want it to read no fill, black stroke. So I'm just going to hit this button. And as you see, it basically changes those colors out so that you can see the image below. Next, what we want to do, we want to make sure that we have the stroke selected. You want to go to your swatches. And if you haven't already, definitely download your Roland versus swatches for Illustrator. They are a huge help. But if not, that's totally fine. You can go through and set your CMYK values all to 0, except magenta needs to be at 100 to get the cut contour. However, you have to set up spot colors, and you'll have to make sure your naming is spot on, because if not, it will not read it correctly when you send it to Versaworks. So my recommendation, get the swatches, download it, 2 steps, and you're done. So once you have the stroke selected, you just want to hit cut contour, and it's basically going to turn it to pink. I'm going to zoom in so you can see. It used to be black. Now we have a pink border. As you can see, this is what I was talking about earlier. I don't want to see any white in my design. So you see where my cut lines are going to start, and there's going to be like that blurry whiteness that's going to be there. I don't want that. So what I'm going to do to change that, this is an optional step. If you feel like your bleed lines or your cut lines are spot on, you don't need to do this step. However, you feel like you need to increase or decrease that offset, you want to make sure you have the circle selected here on the outside of your layer. Go to object, go to path, and go to offset path. And basically what I'm going to be doing is taking my current path that I've already set and pushing it in some so I can cut that bleed out. Not to bleed. I can cut out any unnecessary white that may be there where the bleed does not catch. So this is showing what I want my actual image to show, what I want to put on my t-shirt and things of that nature. So I have it currently set at negative 0.06. The offset values will vary per design. Sometimes I have them positive, sometimes I have them as negative. It just depends on how I want my cut lines and things to look. So being at the negative 0.06, I do like how it does go in some, cuts over that color. So I'm just going to hit OK. Once you hit OK, it's basically going to select another layer for you, create another layer for your new offset path. So now it's going to be your job to get rid of the old ones. As a word of thumb, usually when you create that new offset path, Illustrator goes ahead and select that new one for you so that you know exactly what that new layer is. If you are still unsure, you can go through and hide these. Now you can see the difference. This is my old one. This is my new one. So you can see the huge, huge difference. I'm just going to get rid of this old one since I no longer need it. Delete that. We're going to lock that layer. Actually, before we lock it, we're going to change our stroke value. I'm sorry. So reselect the path or the cut line. I'm going to rename that the cut line again. Reselect that. You're going to hit 0.25 is going to be your stroke value to thin that line out even more. And I'm just going to lock that layer because I'm done with it. Now I'm going to bring back my bleed. As you can see, my bleed is still right there. Like I said, I feel like there's more than enough bleed for me because before I had bleed coming all the way out here, which is just like unnecessary ink, and it was very heavy black. So what we're going to do is the same thing. Select your bleed layer. Make sure you have that circle selected on the outside here. I always just double check with blue as well. You want to go to image trace, go back to silhouette, and then you're going to hit expand it again. I'm just basically condensing my layers, renaming that bleed again so I know what layer is what. And that layer is basically done. As of right now, you can see that I have a black bleed on my border. If you don't want black, you can change that. A way to change that is to select that bleed layer, go to properties, and you want to select the fill. Once you select fill, go to your eyedropper tool, and you can select anywhere in your picture to change that border. So as you can see, I have changed my border from black to blue, and it does possibly help out a lot when it does cut, because that's that now and doesn't have that huge black where there's no black present in my design. So that's that. Now all I would do if I'm happy with my results, I will just take this, save as an Illustrator, save my computer, and then I will save this as a PDF file and then import this into my Versaworks. Let's see. Do I have one in Versaworks? Once you do that, you can drag and drop into Versaworks as well, or you can open into Versaworks, however you choose to do so. And I'll just show you my previous one here. This is my Versaworks. As you can see, there's a bleed, there is a cut line, you have the marching ants and all of that. So that shows me that everything went through pretty well. There's my marching ants within my photo. There's my bleed outside of that. There's no white gapes. There's no nothing. Like I said, this helps tremendously. This right here is where I end up fixing my line. Sometimes the bleed does not go where you want because it is a solid picture. So what I end up doing is making sure that my cut lines were inside of my document. But when it did come out, there was a little bit of the image left out. So when it did cut, it cut out beautifully. So that's that. A word of thumb, always get to check your widths when you come in here to make sure you're on size. And then you go from there. So that is how I create lines. That is a tidbit, the tips I was giving. And I thought it was pretty cool. So I hope you guys enjoy. If you have any questions, please leave your comments or anything below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. No question is too dumb or too small. I'm open for anything. So if you have any questions, you need me to reach out to you one-on-one, I'm happy to do so. Just drop your comments, leave your emails, and I'll be happy to reach out to you. Thanks for watching.